Hey, I'm Zada Komara. I teach here at the UK Lewis Honors College, and I normally teach interdisciplinary social science. I am an archaeologist of the recent past, but today I'm going to talk about a fun Garbology project doing contemporary archaeology using our campus as a cool space for learning. My component of this panel is Trash Talking, the Garbology of Emplacement as Experiential Education. Be warned, this paper includes discussion of underage drinking, drug use, and sex, and images of bodily fluids and some crude graffiti. I think it's important for me to define material culture before I get started. Material culture is physical stuff made, modified by, or important to human social life. So this is a range of things. Your food, your hairstyle, your house, landscapes, even the bacteria in your gut are both cultural and material. Material culture acts alongside us as social actors in a dialectical relationship, right? Both stuff and society make each other in a mutual constitution. And of course, many disciplines study material culture: folklore, anthropology, design, art, sociology, interdisciplinary text studies, architecture, history. Yet, it remains an underutilized element in honors curriculum and pedagogy. Stuff has great potential. Materials are evocative. They're alluring in their physicality, crucial to phenomenological learning, right? Our embodied social competence. Students love studying stuff, especially as it relates to their lived experience. The more creative and out-of-pocket the project, the better I've found. I cannot overstate this. People love garbage, y'all. Students just freaking love trash. Trash talks. Or at least it whispers in our peripheral vision, intended to remain out of sight, but deeply entangled in the human experience. Garbage is the evocative, intimate record of human actions, desires, and habits. And garbologists listen. We literally reach for an often distasteful but evocative material record of bygone activities, probing both broad and specific questions about human social behavior. So, to define garbology, it's basically using archaeological methods to study contemporary human life through trash. So this is a legendary stairwell number 3 in the middle of the Rose Street parking garage, which faces across the way the Jacobs Science Building and is the main artery up to the top deck, a known party zone. Stairwell 3 and the Rose Street Garage generally are a persistent place on the University of Kentucky landscape. When I first started this project, my friend Andrew, who's my age, said, "Have I ever told you the story of the time I was asked to smoke weed in the Rose Street parking garage as a freshman?" And I said, "No, but do tell. This is going in a conference presentation." And he said, "Oh yeah, first week of classes, freshman year, some older boys in my fraternity asked if I wanted to smoke weed, and they took me to this stairwell right here." And he said he committed the ultimate social faux pas of dropping the bowl. The glass shattered, and he essentially shattered the social engagement. Just last week, in this very same urine-filled stairwell, I encountered a lovely young undergraduate smoking a beautifully rolled blunt who told me that he works for the local Aramark restaurant and comes in here when it gets cold. He had never heard of the reputation of the garage. He had found it on its own, meaning that in addition to persistent lore, people find this space because it serves their contemporary needs. So the Rose Street Garage Archaeological Project is a material culture survey and community-based public anthropology project about a persistent place on UK's campus. So this project started in fall 2022 as a replacement for a cigarette butt collection project I used to do after an offhand student comment about how we should survey the garage, since I'm always talking about how nasty it is. It is nasty. I park in there. Parking structure 2 is a restricted employee core lot with open night and weekend student and public parking. IT Services has a hidden business facility in the basement, and the roof houses the McAdams Observatory Telescope Dome. Built decades ago, the garage is now located right in the middle of campus, making it a hub between North and South Campus. And interestingly, the garage just underwent a structural facelift that included opening it up to sunlight
I truly think, to keep students from drinking, smoking, and hooking up in there, which, by the way, has not worked. A student of mine just last week, in the most well-lit stairwell ever, visible from like half of campus, she found 2 used condoms, a banana, and a tube of lube.
So the garage is famous in lore. People tell incoming freshmen that this is the place to smoke, especially up near the telescope dome. This is a place to party. This is a place to hide if you want to hook up. This is a place to come to be alone. If you just want to smoke a bowl and be alone, if you want to read a book, if you want to sunbathe on the deck, people let each other know that this is a place to do that. The garage is a multi-use structure. This is a popular destination for smoking, eating, drinking, hooking up, taking selfies, particularly on the rim of the deck, sunbathing, cheerleading, dance practicing, stunts, working on your car, and sadly suicide attempts. And as you can see right here, ripping some fat donuts on the top deck.
A bit about methods. So field crews of 25 students in 2022 and a field crew of 54 students in 2024 were organized through my Modern Material Culture and the Archaeology of Us seminar. My field crew consisted of Lewis Honors College students, ages 19 to 22, no anthropology majors among them, meaning we had 0 field experience. 80% of our honors students are STEM. They're luckily high achieving and generally awesome. So honestly, better fieldwork happened here than I've done with degree holding professionals. They read some material culture studies from all sorts of fields, archaeology to sociology during seminar. And our field component was a crash course in pedestrian survey and mapping. We spent just 3 50-minute course periods on the project per semester / field season. 1 on methods and 2 doing the actual survey. Students walked 5-meter transects and plotted artifacts on the decks. They made artifact lists for the stairwells, and they photo documented artifacts and features such as the donut tire tracks on the top. And in 2024, students also did a full inventory of all of the trash and recycling cans in the garage. I feel like I owe those folks something in particular for that. My 2022 students piece plotted artifacts on a custom paper grid, old school style. And since that went better than expected, we upgraded to using the ArcGIS geospatial software Survey 123, which geolocates user positions and allows text and photo entry. It did work better than I expected, despite the fact that the lower decks block cell service. If you're interested in this tech aspect of the project, please DM me because I have thoughts. We mapped about 2,000 artifacts and features total during both field seasons. A couple of students also asked questions of other student interviewees about the garage for the Materiality of UKY Oral History project, which was another course project. My student, Allison, also interviewed physics department staff member Tim Nauer, who runs the telescope, for her thesis. And I interviewed UKPD Lieutenant Randall Webb and Eric Sidwell from Grounds, and since Eric has become essentially a co-PI on the project. What do you do with a philosophy degree when you work for Grounds? You turn it into an elevated study of trash, since you have to do that anyway for work. Features included tire tracks, urine puddles and stains, vomit puddles and stains. The largest categories of artifacts were food containers and wrappers, particularly Cookout and McDonald's brand, and to-go drinks from the nearby Speedway. Smoking remains, notably Marlboros, particularly Marlboro Lights, and weed wrappers in the brands Raw and Lazy Susan, in addition to a bunch of different brands of blunt wrapper. And alcohol containers, notably beer, White Claw, and liquor, including, of course, the ubiquitous on-campus Fireball whiskey shooter. And what we see here is both intentional deposition and accidental deposition, like it blew out of their car or a trash can.
What we have here is a nice activity area. Loose tobacco from a blunt, the blunt roach, pile of vomit, and to top everything off, a nice fresh pile of urine.
Despite this stern and judgmental sign, all categories of campus members are using the garage recreationally, and all categories litter. For example, the physical plant division, so that includes grounds, smokes in their work vans and throws cigarette butts out. Employees and student commuters just literally set their to-go bags for food on the decks instead of walking to the cans. Students smoke blunts literally at all hours, and faculty and admin staff smoke on their lunch breaks. And there is literally one doctor bro that throws a single Nicorette packet on the elevator floor every morning and has done so for several years. My students and I are currently working on a publication about the project and have some arguments about the importance of the garage to our campus community. First, we argue that this is a persistent place. This is a term we use in anthropology, particularly archaeology. We're talking about physical sites that become landscapes, right? Social spaces that take on a special significance due to repeated ritual interaction and folklore. These places are often imbued with the sacred. And I think you could make a case for the garage. I have literally seen Islamic folks pray there. Persistent places linger in our consciousness, even after their original meaning may change. Second, we argue that the garage is a liminal space for recreation, both outside the surveillance of peers and law enforcement, and celebrated almost as a rite of passage. Students and faculty and staff engage in recreational behaviors here not appropriate in other campus spaces, like smoking, right, which is banned at UK. The garage's draw relies heavily on this liminality. It's both indoor and outdoor, and public and private. And the garage is obviously not an officially recognized campus recreation or educational space, but we argue that it is one of the most crucial in terms of placemaking. Place-based and modern material culture studies creatively meet learning outcomes for honors social science core courses like mine. They teach both soft and hard skills. They yield collaborative publishable research. They foster community building. And I think they align honors experiential education with emplacement, the crucial spatio-social experience of being in the world via this process of materiality. And I want us to expand our classrooms to the landscape at large, the spatial and physical organization of the social, right, as geographers would call landscape. We archaeologists have actually been doing what's called campus archaeology for decades. This is an outgrowth of public or community archaeology meant to connect students to both campus heritage and the people and spaces who are the university. This kind of collaborative project connects coursework to communities and promotes educational ownership. For example, this project has brought together faculty with physical plant division grounds workers and students with staff like Tim Now, who runs a telescope and has connected us to local law enforcement, who hilariously think the project is going to keep students from smoking weed in the garage, but that is a story for another day. And lastly, students just simply love this because it was original research that goes on their CVs. They got to do as part of a course grade. They loved documenting persistent places that they shape, and they think garbage and recreation are weird and fun and very cool research topics. I don't know if you follow the slang here, but this is probably the highest level compliment you could ever get from a 19-year-old. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, like, I'm not an archaeologist and I don't want to study gross shit with my classes. You don't have to. I'm simply presenting an appeal for creative, community-focused, place-based, collaborative, experiential education. This very small study has resulted in robust publishable data and interpretations. And documenting persistent campus places and material culture are meaningful to students because this is their home, this is their workplace, and I would argue, in keeping with this session, this is also their classroom, right? Stuff outside the classroom is the classroom. The world is the classroom. I hope you're at this point sitting there thinking, I would like to do this, right? I would like to get my campus involved and do some placemaking and have students step outside the classroom and do real original research as experiential ed. And here's how I think you find out where to do this. Here's a list of questions you can ask yourself to determine that next on-campus persistent place as learning lab locale.
Do students delight in the lore of the place? Does its reputation spark interest?
Will it necessitate many teachers, the democratization of authority we talk about so fondly in critical pedagogy? Will it make people in places seen? Folks like custodial staff that students say they don't see on campus, to spaces like this, right, that fade into the background but are heavily determinant of action and behavior.
Will students feel seen?
I'm going to leave that in.
Will students feel seen because their daily life and history is elevated by study?
Is this place right here free, easy to use, accessible? Will it allow you to take a break from fieldwork travel that is expensive, where you get like intestinal parasites?
Will it make students give more of a shit about each other, their fellow campus and town community members, their environment, their education, etc.?
Will this project reinvigorate your desire to keep coming to work on this campus where departmental politics and neoliberalism and bigoted legislation is flattening your soul?
Basically, will learning become transformative placemaking? Thanks so much for listening about our project, and I'm really excited to get into the Q&A of this session next.